Colorado. Next slide. This initiative was led by Early Milestones with partnerships from the Colorado Department of Education, the Colorado Department of Early Childhood, and funded by Gary Community Ventures and Buell Foundation. Next slide. So today I'll provide an overview of how this innovative public-private partnership began, focusing on these 4 project components: research, planning, exploration, and later some of the grantees will share their innovative ideas to support sustainable change. We began this work with research in 2016 with an economic analysis to really understand the early childhood sectors within the Colorado context, and a workforce survey to get a picture of what the workforce looks like and why early childhood educators choose and then stay in these careers. We then developed an actionable state plan to support the workforce, which was endorsed by the Early Childhood Leadership Commission in June of 2017. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, something just changed on my, there we go. And then the initiative moved into the exploration phase of this work, including project implementation from the Workforce Innovation Grantees. You can go to the next slide. So as I mentioned, a workforce survey was conducted in 2016 and results indicated several challenges. So in terms of compensation, we learned that early educators earn approximately half of what their kindergarten counterparts make. Sorry, my slides keep moving. And the average child care, sorry, my slides keep moving. And the average child care worker makes just above poverty wages for a family of 4 and makes well below self-sufficiency levels. So keeping that in mind, with low wages, it's difficult to recruit new professionals into the field and then keep those who are passionate about working with children. 70% of directors reported having difficulty finding qualified staff to fill positions, and the average turnover rate was about 33% or higher. So looking at education levels, we found that 87% of teachers wanted to pursue higher education if supports were available. And those supports included financial assistance, convenient class times, and access to student services. Moving into working conditions, this is a difficult job and teachers burn out. These staffing issues can impact not only teachers and administrators, but also children and families. You can go to the next slide. So equipped with these findings, the initiative partners then met with communities across the state to see if these survey results were consistent with what they were experiencing. We then took what we heard from those local communities and put together a plan for the implementation phase of our work, continuing the strong public-private partnership with Milestones, state agencies, Buell Foundation, and Gary Community Ventures. And in the spring of 2018, the first RFP was released for the Early Childhood Workforce Innovation Grants with the goal of funding innovations in local communities addressing the key levers of change that you see here. The first cohort of innovation grantees began in 2018, and over the course of 4 years, 13 ready communities tested innovative solutions using data and rapid cycle evaluation to improve their efforts and move forward the best strategies. And to support that rapid cycle evaluation, we partnered with Mathematica. So I'll turn it over to Mark Ezzo, who will talk more about Mathematica and their approach.
Oh, Casey, that was a lovely transition. Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Ezzo. As you know, I'm from the Mathematica team. And yeah, for folks that aren't familiar with us, long story short, we're a research firm. We partner with a lot of federal, state, local, and community-based partners. Our role in this initiative with Milestones and the grantees was that of a technical assistance provider or learning and strategy partner.
Hey, Mark.
So, yes.
So sorry to interrupt you.
No, please.
I just saw in the chat that we're not sure if the Spanish interpretation is working as intended. So I want to make sure we have a chance before you.
I think no, it's yeah. I think Sally said it is now, right?
Okay.
Oh,
Thank
cool.
you. All right.
No, I appreciate it.
Sorry about that.
No, thanks. Well, in the name of remaining flexible and iterating, let's keep it going. Kate, if you don't mind hitting the next slide for me. Cool. So a lot of Mathematica's work with the grantee teams was guided by the Learn, Innovate, Improve, or LI squared process model for change. So we developed this in collaboration with practitioners in human services fields and with the Federal Office of Planning, Research, and Evaluation. It was sort of built on the belief that leaders need credible information quickly to make good evidence-informed strategic decisions, and that researchers can play a role in that process by helping those in the field generate evidence and helping them access it to make those decisions. So LI squared really draws from implementation science, human-centered design, and improvement processes to help folks navigate adaptive and technical elements of change in a formative feedback loop like you see here. So simply put, I just think of LI squared as a method to help folks answer what's working for whom and under what circumstances to get really good implementation. Two quick examples. Kate, if you don't mind, the next slide, please. I'll just say the teams on the line can do much more justice to their work than I can. We were truly a learning and strategy partner in this space, but the incredible work that you see represented here belongs to the teams. So do you mind just going back one, Katie? I'm so sorry. Cool, thank you. This is just a quick example from the career navigation team, whom Kelly Billis will be representing in a minute. Essentially, it's a bird's eye view of their LI squared informed work, right? So this team wanted to learn about the needs of their respective communities. So they launched a needs assessment, facilitated focus groups, synthesized those learnings into findings to help them innovate in response and inform the guiding principles of their new navigator position. And when piloting the position, they worked in really intentional feedback loops to collect formative data to say, all right, what's working with the folks who are meeting with the navigators and where can we improve? So really focusing on that iterative improvement, like Casey mentioned. And then final note is on the Valley Settlement Friends, the next slide. It really just, this slide just focuses on rapid prototyping and testing, or road testing in particular, which is to say, Valley Settlement identified an area of need that they wanted to work on improving. In this case, it was sort of ad hoc partner communication. They wanted to get really intentional about how they might streamline that in year 2 of their work. So we sort of worked with them to create a logic model to say, this is what we want to do, what are our targets for change, and how will we know if we're successful? So a really research-informed approach to piloting this process and collecting formative data lined up to the learning objectives you see here to let them know what's going well about the new partnership communication approach and where might we make even further improvements. And I am out of time. I'll just say the only grantee I didn't speak to is Early Childhood Council of La Plata, who did incredible formative rapid cycle testing as well. And maybe Heather will be able to talk to that from her perspective in a bit. But I will stop there and transition over to Steph Clothier from Gary Community Ventures. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mark. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm Stephanie Clothier. I'm the School Readiness Director at Gary Community Ventures, and I'm very excited to be here. This has been an incredible initiative, and I speak as one of the philanthropic partners, and I'm looking forward to hearing from Susan in a minute. But this has been a really incredible journey to figure out how we can tackle some of the biggest challenges in the early childhood space, which is really about the workforce. From our perspective as philanthropy, this has been a multi-million-dollar effort that we think has also leveraged millions of dollars in the process. And I actually wanted to take a minute to just make a few thank yous that also reinforce how this model was developed and what it was meant to do. I want to first thank Susan Steele and the Buell Foundation for this partnership. We have been working together for a long time on these issues, and this has, I think, been one of the strongest partnerships I've ever seen with 2 different philanthropies working in partnership to make this work happen. I want to thank the team at Early Milestones, Jennifer Stedron, Casey Miller, Courtney Thornton, and all of the staff who I know pitched in all the time to make this project work and to think and to learn and to iterate along the way. I also want to thank the Mathematica team, having met them years ago and wanting to help foster a culture of innovation here in Colorado. And I just really appreciate the work that they did to support our grantees, and to help us learn across the state how to iterate and learn along the way. So thanks to them. I want to thank our state partners. I know Jennifer O'Brien's on the line and probably others as well, but Angela, I imagine, is on as well. This model, as Casey mentioned, was really meant to have a feedback loop between learning and practice on the ground and our state partners. And I think we can all feel really great about how the state has advanced the work in the early childhood workforce and really taken the mantle going forward. And then I want to also just thank our local communities, everyone who applied for a grant as part of this workforce innovation work, and then particularly the grantees who were willing to take a risk, who were willing to be vulnerable and learn, and to change course. And I think that's a hard thing to learn, especially when you're a grantee. You expect to have your plan and move it forward. And these grantees were really all about the innovation and learning. So I think this project really sets us up really well in Colorado for the work ahead. I think we have a lot of work to do to support providers coming out of the pandemic. This has been obviously a tremendously challenging time, particularly for the workforce. I think if we're going to achieve the outcomes we want from universal preschool, we obviously have to have a strong workforce, and learning from the work in this initiative is going to help us get there. We also know that we have to support children in all the spaces that they're in, and that includes family, friend, and neighbor care and other caregivers. So we have a lot to learn from this work going through there. And then I think we know we still have lots of barriers for families. I mean, not for families, for teachers and caregivers coming into this space. And so I think this team, this learning at all different levels really sets us up well for that. And I would say in closing, I think there's probably 6 ways that we can continue to advance this work in the years ahead. One is I'm really excited that there's a new strategic plan coming. This initiative also developed the last one, so I'm glad to see we're moving to the next one. We have a compensation task force that's going to be recommending future compensation. That's been a really tough one as part of this initiative. I think we're going to learn a lot about the compensation relief efforts that were part of the ARPA dollars and other federal funds. So I look forward to seeing how those learnings complement the learnings we've had here around compensation. The Circle grants are going to be incredibly important. Milestones, I think, after having run this initiative for 4 years and fostering innovation, was perfectly well suited to then run the Circle grant work that is continuing that innovation culture. So just appreciate that. And I would say the last opportunity is, I think, with the new Department of Early Childhood and their data efforts, as we think about what data we need to know, building on the survey and other data work that we've done over the last several years, how does that then contribute to our learning going forward? So I would just say I couldn't be more proud of this initiative and the work that's been accomplished across the state. And as Gary will continue to do what we can do as a philanthropy to continue to support these efforts. So thanks so much. Congratulations to everyone. And I'll turn it over to Susan now.
Thank you, Steph. I think you couldn't have said it better. We're so excited here at Buell about this project. I will point out that when we started this 6 years ago, we knew we had some concerns about workforce and some growing concerns about workforce. Oh boy, we didn't know how big those concerns were going to become all of a sudden with, of course, the pandemic. So I think right place, right time, right team. And I do want to emphasize the same thing. I think we live the LI squared model in this work all the way through. And one final thought is I appreciate the teams because Steph and I were not afraid to push and say, no, this is not innovation. No, this isn't going where we want to go. And everybody stepped up to that challenge, and it was so appreciated. And look at the wonderful outputs and the opportunities, as Steph was pointing out, to use this in collaboration with other work that's going forward. So at Buell, we want to thank you all very much and for the opportunity to be part of it. So let's hear about the results.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think we're going to turn it over to our grantees now. to share more about their projects. Kenya and Sally from Valley Settlement, you guys are up first, so feel free to unmute.
All right. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you to everyone who made this project possible. It really was a transformative body of work for our organization and for the opportunity to share our project with you today. Our mission is to listen to Latina families and together create opportunities for early childhood and adult education, connection, and growth so children and families can thrive. Our community has a large population of Latina family, friend, and neighbors providers who care for children in their homes. For years, we have worked with these FFN providers, and what we always hear is that they want more professional development opportunities, more access to training and materials, and more support so that they can provide the best care possible to their young charges. At the same time, we have an imbalance in our child care centers. While we have many Latino families and children in our valley, most of our center teachers and administrators are white monolingual English speakers. This creates numerous inequities in our child care system. So we wanted to do something that would address these two needs: the underrepresentation of Latina and Latino teachers in our center-based workforce, and the desire on the part of our FFN community for more professional development opportunities. We have had past experiences with the Child Development Associate course, and we had identified it as a low barrier pathway to early childhood credentialing that, for the most part, works for our community. We partnered with Early Childhood Network to bring CDA classes to two different populations: bilingual high schoolers in the Roaring Fork and Eagle River valleys, and Spanish-speaking FFN providers who care for children in their homes. Our other partners in this work included Roaring Fork Schools and Eagle Schools, Yampa High School, Eagle County, and Aspen Community Foundation and our Community Foundation as our local champions. I'm going to turn it over now to our project lead, Kenya Pinella.
Gracias, Sally. Hola a todos. It's so exciting to be here, and I cannot echo more of what Sally has shared. So how it went? Oh my, for us, we were ready to start classes in person. Everything was set. It was a new and exciting experience for us. March of 22, and we quickly March 2020, I'm sorry, and we quickly realized that a shift was going to be needed as we were approaching COVID and this insecurity of what was to come. We changed our trajectory quickly, and as everybody probably thought, we would probably be back into what seemed to be normal for us in a couple of months or after 1 month. But it was really in the summer when we realized that that was not going to happen. And so our team did have to quickly begin to pivot into a new format of CDA classes. And we did not know what that was going to bring. And we're so thankful to all of our partners for embarking into that experience with us and just trusting the process as we were going through it, as everybody else was in the country. And so in September of 2020, we were able to launch our first 2 cohorts of our FFN caregivers, and also our 3 cohorts with our high school students. And, there were lots of virtual learnings, which is what I like to call it. For our FFN cohorts, we had multiple barriers that really needed to be addressed, and we needed to make sure that we had the supports in place. At times, a lot of our FFN providers, this was the first time that they were ever going to be taking a course that was going to be online. And for many, this was maybe 15 years since they had been in an actual academic setting. And so that was just something, a really big step for them. Together, we navigated through Zoom, taught our first cohort, and really realized that we wanted to make the CDA curriculum a CDA more culturally responsive curriculum to the FFN Latino population. And so together with our FFNs, we were able to work through that and design that. Our high school courses, of course, went phenomenal. We had those tech savvy young students. However, you know, we were able to engage with them and specifically engage with high school students who wanted to pursue a workforce pathway in early childhood. And the challenges that we quickly faced with them were COVID. And so being placed in a center to do their practicum or their volunteer hours was really, it really had to be pushed off. And that was difficult for them as they were learning through the curriculum. They wanted a space and opportunity to implement what they were learning about children. And so unfortunately, that was something that we had to pause and weren't able to really do until the summer and a little later on into the summer of 2021. So nevertheless, it was such an exciting experience, as Sally has said, and it has truly changed the way in which we have started to approach our work. So I'm going to give it back to Sally as she's going to talk a little bit more about our results.
I'll go quickly. So by the end of the project, we had taught 8 classes with 70 students completing the course. Only 20 students dropped over the entire course, so we had a 77% retention rate. We also placed 11 high school students in centers to complete their practicum hours, and we had developed a Spanish language CDA curriculum specifically aimed at Latina FFN providers that we will continue using in our FFN program moving forward. All right, that's it for us.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Bowes, and I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives at Denver's Early Childhood Council. I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity to be here, for this invitation and being part of this webinar opportunity, but also thank you to Early Milestones for this opportunity part of the initiative. It's been transformative both on a personal level and for our organization. We are just doing things differently and approach our work with a stronger foundation and reflection because of our participation. So thank you for that. Katie, do you want to move forward to the next slide that shows a little bit of our visual? We have been a recipient of 3 workforce innovation grants through this initiative. So we're very grateful for that. And it's been a whole lot of learning through the process. In 2018, we started with a small pilot idea to recruit new teachers into the field through an accelerator model, an early childhood teacher career pathway. We secured a waiver through the ECLC that was based on milestones and our participants achieving that. So some of the other key parts of that that first year included higher ed coursework being delivered in a cohort model in a community-based setting, and additional wraparound supports that were tied to teacher competency development, including reflective supervision and coaching, as well as partnerships with community organizations that had supports and resources that kind of supported that whole individual, knowing that personal success and professional success are really intertwined. We also launched an innovative early childhood sector partnership in that first year with our local champion, the Denver Office of Economic Development and Opportunity. So that was really exciting and innovative. And many of you, I think, that are on this webinar were part of those early conversations and ideas. We used some of the lessons learned in our first year as we thought about a proposal, and then were successful in launching our year 2 grant, which we call the No Wrong Door model. In our first year, as we were recruiting participants into the program, we learned that about a quarter of the applicants were either early childhood teacher qualified already or very close to it. And that speaks to the complexity of entering and growing within the profession. It was heartbreaking to know that some teachers out there are qualified and they didn't know it, and that this could have been an opportunity for a career path. So we extended our career navigation support, which was really critical in the sense making and that hand holding along the way to a variety of pathways and individuals. So sort of opening that door more broadly in our second year. And then have utilized that idea into our third Workforce Innovation Grant, and then currently right now with our Circle Grant that's continuing the work in partnership with councils in El Paso County and Adams County. So it's been, you know, as this slide here and the arrow shows the sort of learning and feedback opportunity, I think this idea of a career navigator, whether it's by title or function, that lives in many organizations and is showing up as a critical need for the field, is something that we're taking away from this work with Early Milestones and really embedding into core services for Denver's Early Childhood Council. In our third year, so the essential roadmap diagram down here, in that year, we served almost 200 individuals through consultation and technical assistance. And some of the evaluation findings that we had from that, that opportunity included 90% of professionals reporting increased confidence in making meaningful progress towards their goals. 93% of professionals reporting leaving meetings with a career navigator understanding their next steps, and 97% of professionals reporting receiving tailored recommendations for meaningful resources. So as I mentioned, it's really exciting that we were awarded a Circle grant to continue the work, and Denver's Early Childhood Council is really committed to thinking about ways to embed these learnings and the service of career navigation into the provider-facing work that we bring to the community every day. So thank you. I'll pass it off to Heather now.
Thank you so much, Kelly, and thank you to Early Milestones and our funding partners for this invitation to present. The Early Childhood Council was the lead grantee on a partnership called the La Plata County Early Childhood Workforce Initiative, which was a small and mighty partnership in the southwest corner of the state. It grew from an existing stakeholder group that I have to call out on this call. Our original champion, Sierra DeMarco, is here, and I can't thank her enough for being such a wonderful contributor to our first year of the grant as the Buell Professional Development Scholarship navigator and coordinator for our adult education center here in Durango. That was kind of the growth of our plan, was to address retention and recruitment in our community, which was struggling, as most communities were, with sustaining our workforce in early childhood. And our tactic was to recruit from the Durango High School population, a student population that had expressed interest in the career path, but was struggling to find access to the education and career pathway within their school. And so we were able to partnership not just with the Adult Education Center, but with the Durango 9R School District to offer a series of concurrent enrollment courses that were initially only offered to a select group of junior and senior students in 2018. The demand for those courses accelerated much faster than we anticipated. And by the time we reached March 2020, we had 3 sections of ECE 101 and 103 running each year at our high school. And to this date, we've provided 160 high school students with an opportunity to achieve ECE entry-level certificate. We've had a 58% retention rate, and we have 120 students graduating from the high school in the last 2 years who are qualified to enter the workforce with the ECE entry-level certificate from Pueblo Community College. We learned very quickly that our local champions were essential to this work and were really the tipping point in being able to sustain and implement these strategies long-term. Some of the ripple effects that this project has had since its inception has been the LI squared model of surveying our students and our mentor teachers on a very regular basis in order to address concerns about placement and the ability to attain the skills that they would like to attain during their practical placements in quality early childhood settings has now been incorporated for all work-based learning at our high school and has been incorporated into our Business Education Connect system for all internships through for 8th graders through graduation. Our project has also allowed us to have a much broader voice in our community's career and technical education system, leading to the incorporation of early childhood education in the new Career Technical Education and Innovation Center at the Durango High School, which broke ground in September 2022. We have also been invited to continue to participate in the Southwest Education Collaborative, which is a joint collaborative between the 5 counties of Southwest Colorado, including all of our higher education partners and high school institutions and leadership, to bring early childhood education as a formal partner in all education-based career and technical education pathways in 5 counties in Southwest Colorado. So our very small project, which I can't say any more about how proud I was to share that project with Sierra and our leaders, many of whom have retired since then, but and to see the many ripples that it has had in our community and that we've been able to sustain beyond the grant period, and really have to thank the funders and Early Milestones for setting us up for such success. So, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you to all of our grantees who joined us and shared from their perspectives today. I'm Katie Dana Poston. I'm a senior project manager with Early Milestones Colorado, and I have the pleasure of introducing the panelists that you haven't yet heard from and moderating today's panel discussion. So I'd like to introduce Angela Benzekri, the ECE Recruitment and Retention Manager at the Colorado Department of Early Childhood, as well as Jennifer O'Brien, who is the Director of the Early Childhood Career Navigation work at the Colorado Department of Education. Angela and Jennifer have been closely involved in this work as partners over the last 4 years and served on the initiatives advisory team. And just want to say thank you for being here. We appreciate both of you for your partnership, your commitment to the early childhood workforce, and for you to be here to share from your perspectives today. So with that being said, we're going to jump into our panelist discussion. We're just a tiny bit behind on time. So I'm going to move kind of quickly, and the panelists who want to speak, please raise your hand and unmute yourselves and go for it. And let's try to keep responses at about a minute per person, if possible. So this first question is really intended for our grantees who are joining us today. These are the incredible folks who worked in local communities to bring these local workforce innovations to life. So the first question for our panelists is, what lessons learned from your project have been most impactful for your community? And what lessons learned have you incorporated into your current work? Don't be shy.
I can jump in. So I think that this project really allowed us to rethink our role in the larger workforce issue, and also kind of rethink our role in larger systemic issues that impact our community. You know, we're very boots on the ground. We're very like community driven and grassroots. And I think we saw in this work an opportunity to affect change at a larger level beyond just the folks that we're working with directly. And so that's really prompted us to step into kind of some advocacy work in other areas that impact our community directly. So that's been a really again, transformative way that this initiative has prompted us to just rethink how we're doing things. And I'm Sally Boughton with Valley Settlement.
Hi, I'll share a little bit about career navigation and the learning that's happened. We approached this work with a relationship-based model, and I think that's been critical to designing what an early childhood career navigator can do and can be for the field. We too, as Sally described, experienced COVID in March 2020 and panicked like everyone else. So it was so amazing to have the support of Early Milestones and Mathematica to, process how are we going to continue. But that relationship piece was really critical to not having a complete meltdown of our initiative and, attrition that was like, sky high. So that's what I think we will take going forward, is that relationship piece is so important for the complexity in the system, that stress piece. And if a career navigator can take on some of that for an aspiring educator, that's something that's beneficial to the field.
I'm Heather Hawk from the Early Childhood Council of La Plata County. I think one of the primary learning that we experienced was the need to have champions within some of the organizations that we were trying to partner with. We needed to have a champion within our faculty and our higher ed. It was critical to have a champion beyond our usual suspects. And so I think we really worked hard to perpetuate that relationship. And I think Kelly's right, the relationship is what kept our programs and our grant moving forward, even with the disruption of COVID, being able to turn to those relationships and innovate quickly between leaders who understood that we were really sharing a common goal. And not just trying to be a disruptor in the community. So I think that was one of the things we really learned quickly with this grant.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. It sounds like strong relationships with partners, with your participants, with the initiative partners were so key in your success. So thank you all for sharing. So now we'd like to spotlight our state agency partners that are here with us today. Jennifer and Angela, this next question is for you, the two of you. So what are the most pressing early childhood workforce priorities from your state agency's perspectives? And how do you envision your state agencies partnering together and partnering alongside local communities to continue this incredible work and address the workforce shortages in the future?
Thanks, Katie. I'll start. So, I mean, not surprisingly, our main priority is recruitment and retention of skilled, supported, and diverse workforce, right? To really facilitate the implementation of universal preschool while also maintaining infant toddler care across the state, right? CDE has started an early childhood career navigation team that builds on the success of the Tri-Council career navigation work that Kelly Bowes highlighted earlier, leverages some of the expertise and resources within CDE, and then really centers a rapid iteration. I really liked how Mark summarized it earlier, what's working well for whom and under what circumstances. We're prioritizing serving the whole educator and the reality that many of us know that the well-being of young children is really inseparable from the well-being of the critical adults in their lives, right? So we're excited to continue working with CDEC on this as they define their new and very exciting vision that I'll go ahead and hand it over to Angela to talk a little bit about.
Yeah, thank you. So given we're behind on time, I'm going to paste our mission and vision quickly into the chat, because it's really important to note that we have called out early childhood workforce, the early childhood professionals that are working with children and families across the state as vital components within our mission and vision to serve. And so we're really thinking in depth about how we can continue to serve that workforce and grow the workforce. And through some of our work, we actually just launched, as Steph mentioned earlier, the Compensation and Benefits Task Force. Compensation is going to be one of our biggest hurdles to talk about. And if we don't make headway there, we're not going to see a return on investment on what we're doing with the UPK work ahead of us. So we also, if you may or may not know, have a compensation pilot study launching very soon. And we're looking to move lead teacher and assistant teachers in selected programs to a livable wage and study their wellness and retention throughout a 2-year period under that study. And we're hoping that those findings will support further conversations around the importance of increasing compensation for the workforce. And then we've also been conducting that compensation and benefits task force to put additional recommendations together that will then be fed into the greater workforce plan. The department has a really ambitious WIG goal ahead of us to grow the workforce by about 11% by June 2023. And so learning from our current initiatives, those that are run by the state and those that are run through innovation grants, as the ones that have gone through the last couple of years, are going to serve as a mechanism for us to build a plan to strengthen our mixed delivery system. And we will need to work across sector and across settings to build the workforce needed to implement UPK. And as Jennifer mentioned, to also maintain our infant toddler workforce. So with all of that said, this means that we're going to be building off of the Early Childhood Workforce 2020 plan. And we're going to be expanding that vision under the Workforce 2020 plan away from just licensed childcare settings to also include consultative roles, home visitation, and other components of our workforce, because we need a well-rounded workforce to support children and families as their needs are going to be different across the state. So a lot there, but I will keep us moving and pass it back to Katie.
Thank you. And thank you both for your commitment to supporting the early childhood workforce. We appreciate you and know that there's lots of work to do, but are certainly here to partner with you in that effort. All right, this last question is open for any of our panelists who would like to share. What gives you all hope about the current landscape of early childhood education in Colorado, and specifically the early childhood workforce? Feel free to raise your hand or come off mute and share.
I can get us started, Katie. Hi, everyone. Kenia Pinella. I'm with Valley Settlement. I think one of the things that gives me hope is being able to see all of the amazing work that's happening with all of our grantees and what this initiative was able to spark. I think for me as a Latina and someone who has felt like it never really was able to connect with an educator who looked and spoke like me, it's huge to be able to see that all of us in this room really worked towards diversity in early childhood and had an innovative idea for what worked for their community. And that's something that's going to be sustainable change because we did it, the right way with all languages and just everybody's perspective was able to be included. So it gives me hope for more classroom settings where children can feel like their language is heard and like there's somebody that looks like them and represents them.
I'll add on to that. What really gives me hope is seeing this growing recognition and visibility of the value of family, friends, and neighbors work, especially by those who have power and influence. This FFN workforce is this critical workforce that was really subsidizing our childcare system, and people who have power and influence are now, bringing that to light and really elevating that and seeing that FFN providers should not be persecuted, but instead listened to, understood, elevated, and supported for that critical role that they play. So that gives me a lot of hope.
We have time for maybe just one more response to that question.
I can chime in on that critical idea that Sally was just describing. The past couple of years, the pandemic experience, if we want to think of any kind of hope coming out of that, is that all of a sudden there are new allies and advocates that are talking about childcare as infrastructure. And we need to harness those relationships. And as Sally mentioned, the power, the decision making, and keep them close as we navigate getting ready for UPK and building simultaneously this stronger Birth to 5 system.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you all for your contributions to our discussion today. We really appreciate you being here. So much work to still be done, but so many opportunities to be hopeful about moving forward. So thank you all. I'm going to turn it over to my esteemed colleague, Courtney Thornton, to lead our Q&A with attendees.
Thank you, Katie, and thank you to all of our panelists. I didn't see many questions in the chat, but at this point we have a few minutes for questions or comments. So feel free to use the hand raise function, and I can call on people as we go just to make sure that we keep things moving if you have questions. If there aren't questions, I think, Angela, I saw you come off mute. Was there something you wanted to mention?
I think I have just a fun reflection on the collaboration component of the question. I don't know that I got a chance to say a lot about that, but it's been really wonderful to be able to collaborate with all of the grantees and CDE over the past several years as part of this initiative. I think we've gotten a lot of wonderful relationships out of this and a lot of really innovative work that has come as a result of these collaborative opportunities. A lot of the grantees are included in a lot of the task force work that we've been pushing forward, the Compensation and Benefits Task Force, Universal Preschool, Provisional Qualification Design Group, and a number of other initiatives, and looking forward to launching more into the workforce planning process next year. So I just really appreciate the opportunity to work with everybody here. And all of the hard work that you've been doing at the local level. We've definitely been listening and learning, and we're hopeful that a lot of our stimulus funded initiatives are supporting all of your candidates as they're going through maybe higher education or additional training opportunities and our new coursework on PDIS. A lot of that has come as a result of listening and learning from a lot of these projects. So it's just been a wonderful foundation that's been built here, and we're just so appreciative of being included in the process.
Roya, go ahead.
Yeah, I do have a question. I was wondering if PDIS is going to be increasing, if anybody knows their workforce, because, we submitted things months ago and we are still waiting to hear, results for it and stuff, I mean, I know probably they are smashed with all these new requirements and stuff, but I'm just trying to find out if there is a way, they can create a more responsive type of situation so we can get information, quicker. So I don't know what needs to be done, if they need to increase the workforce or if they need to do more training, but it's a lot, when we are trying to get licensed for our program and our staff are not licensed yet, and that's part of the licensing, and we are still waiting for it. So
yeah, Maria, thank you so much for that feedback. We have had, part of the transition to the new department is making plans around how we can be more responsive. And so one of the things that we are doing right now is we are looking for a vendor to take over our early childhood professional credential review process. so that hopefully those wait times can be reduced. We know we have a several month wait list right now for those professional credential reviews and outside training reviews. And so I think we have a process ahead to meet the criteria for the tax credit by mid-January based on all of the submissions that we received up until December 1st. And then we'll be launching that partnership with a new vendor, hopefully in January or February of next year, with a co-planning process to reduce those wait times. So I'm hopeful that early in the new year, we'll be able to reduce some of that frustration.
Raya, I think you're muted, but I think we have time for maybe one more question if anyone has another question or comment.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I didn't mean to speak over someone. I had one question come into the chat and I'm going to read it out loud. How is the new department including higher degree programs such as the Masters in Special Education programs and increasing access to services in special ed or mental health?
Thank you for that. Yes, multiple of our scholarship programs would be eligible to pay for coursework on those and actually have an emphasis on looking for candidates that are interested in getting their BA or master's in early childhood special education. So the direct allocations to institutes of higher education can be used towards that. So I would encourage folks to get in touch with the ECE chairs at the local universities that have those programs to ask about how you might be able to apply for one of those scholarships. We also have Teach Early Childhood scholarships through ECLA that can be used for those types of degrees. And then we have a BA level apprenticeship at UCCS. I think their program is full now, but we are looking at ways to maybe expand that BA level apprenticeship across the state. So we have a couple of ways that we are trying to dive into more supports for higher education coursework. So that I have a lot more to share in that space, so feel free to reach out and I can make some connections if that's helpful.
Thank you, everyone. So we have just a couple more minutes, so I'm going to drop a link to the video that we produced about this initiative in the chat so that you can watch it later. We didn't have time to show it today, but I just want to say thank you again to all of our panelists and all of our grantees. It was so amazing to hear more about your projects and how transformative they've been. And just thank you again for being here and for being willing to share. So I'm going to put that link in the chat and I will pass it over to Jennifer Stedron to close us out.
Hi, everyone. Jennifer Stedron, Executive Director of Early Milestones Colorado. And I'll continue with the thank yous because I do have just a tremendous amount of gratitude, first of all, to the Early Milestones Colorado team under the leadership of the wonderful, brilliant Casey Miller and just the excellent, excellent work of Katie Dana Poston and Courtney Thornton throughout this, this fantastic initiative. Thank you again to our philanthropic partners. We wouldn't even be talking without them, the Buell Foundation and Gary Community Investments, but also the state partners as well, who have been, you know, like the dream team of collaborators. Really, when you, any of you that were thinking about the workforce 5+ years ago, and thinking about what is happening at the state level now, it is like not even close. The amount of effort, the amount of work, the really, really great things going on. And of course, that's in large part due to the great ideas and implementation that was put forth by our community partners. So like, you know, some of the things we're excited about, not everything, but some very, very exciting pieces are, of course, that concurrent enrollment. The language justice work that has been done has been absolutely tremendous to give pathways and training and education to educators in languages other than English. Credit for prior learning and flexible coursework are so important in this field in particular, where we know there are a lot of great folks doing great work, and they deserve the credit for that and the ability to advance in the system that we have. And then, of course, some exciting work that has been propelled by the federal stimulus funding. None of us want the pandemic to happen. None of us foresaw it. It's not been a great thing for the state, the nation, frankly, you know, everybody. But the stimulus funding allowed this flywheel of work around the workforce to keep going, and we're grateful for that. We've talked about what's left to do. There's a ton. I'm not going to repeat it. I just want to ask you all to continue your wonderful work and your wonderful partnership. And again, thanks to all of you for everything that you've been doing, and thanks in advance for all that you will do.
All right, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. Yay, celebrations. Have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. We will be emailing out the slides, a recording, a report, and a link to the video that Courtney just shared in the chat. So we'll follow up following the webinar. Have a great day, everybody.